want to thank our seniors and their parents for joining us today. There's so many aspects about this class of 2020 that are distinctive and are going to be so memorable. And the class was a strong one to begin with at the outset of the year. Lots of leaders in this class, and it was a very tight class. But they've also sort of taught us all how to be adaptive, to be sacrificial in a way. They're a class that has underwent, a level of grief and is undergoing grief, and discovering more about themselves through this process. As several of those class members who have spoken in chapel recently have, they've taught us all. And I think from the faculty's perspective, we've learned from the class of 2020. And for teachers, we can never lose sight of the fact that we are students, and we are always learning from our students. And that's critical. And this class of 2020 has certainly reminded me of that by their example. As Mr. Drath said yesterday, to the seniors, be the class that gets out there and creates something. I predict that your class will be among the most unified of the Trinity-Pawling classes. And there's some wonderfully unified classes in the alumni ranks. And there are sadly some classes that aren't as unified. But I believe that your class is going to be among the unified classes. Certainly the class of 1988 that Mr. Tyree represents is a very unified class. But they're unified because they work at it. They stay together. They stay connected with their school. And with this unity, you could be creative, and you could be future-looking, forward-thinking as alumni of Trinity-Pawling, teaching us how we can get better as a school. And that is a critical role of the alumni body of Trinity-Pawling, is to help lead the school toward ongoing growth, toward future success. Seniors, you're joining the ranks of our 8,000 plus alumni, and you become part of an extended brotherhood that is with you for life. You are used to thinking about the brotherhood in the context of the campus, in the context of the chapel, in the context of the dormitories, the fields, the dining hall. You are now entering into a much bigger arena of brotherhood. You're ending your relationship with the school as students, but you're entering into a relationship with this school that is going to be with you for years. I was talking to one alumnus recently who said, I had a wonderful 3 years at Trinity-Pawling. They were rich years. They were meaningful years. I have wonderful memories. But my relationship with the school now, 30 years after I graduated, is more rich, more meaningful than I ever imagined it could be. And that's what sort of is on the other side of this. If you choose to make it part of your life, and I really encourage you to do so, I like to think of education in images of cultivation and growth. And seniors, during your time here, many seeds have been planted in your life. And, you're aware of the seeds that germinate quickly and burst through the ground and become healthy and hardy plants. Those are the seeds that manifest themselves in the growth that you're aware of while you've been here on this campus. Your intellectual growth, your physical growth, your spiritual growth, your emotional growth. You're aware of your own maturity. But you know what? There are so many more seeds that have been planted in your experience at Trinity-Pawling. Seeds that will begin to germinate a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years, 20 years from now, 50 years from now. These seeds will still be germinating and growing and fostering growth. And you're going to think of things 20 years from now that happened at school. And you'll think about them in a different way. And they will enrich your life. If you allow yourself to do that, to be there, to be open to that relationship. And I certainly encourage you to do that, to be open to that relationship, to engage it with your now 8,000 plus brothers who are in this alumni group. And be connected with one another, your classmates, but be connected to your school. Come back, come to reunions, be engaged. You're going to meet people out in your professional life, your community life. You're going to run into people who went to Trinity-Pawling. They could be sitting next to you on an airplane, or you'll meet them at a dinner party or in an office. Randomly, you're going to run into alumni and you'll share this bond, and that's special. So I want to share a very special gift our alumni and trustees and parents have put together for you. It's called a kudo board. And Mr. Riley is going to share his screen and show you what this is. So you can see this is a virtual board that can serve as a reminder of the community that is here for you now and in the future. And we'll share this link to this board via email, and it's yours forever. It will be a growing and active legacy to your class. It's now my pleasure to introduce our alumni speaker, Mr. David Tyree, class of 1988. And we're honored, David, to have you here. Mr. Tyree has spent much of his life in Pawling, New York. He knows it well, and still is up here on some weekends and in the summertime. But he primarily lives in New York City with his wife and his 2 young sons. Mr. Tyree is a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley Bank, and more importantly, from the school's perspective, he serves as a key role as a class agent for Trinity-Pawling. And he is a driving force at keeping people connected and the unity of his class. He's a real he's part of the reason why the class is united, because of his leadership. For their 25th reunion, the class of 1988 had record attendance back on campus, and they've been a model for other classes to follow. So David, thank you for sharing a few words with our graduating seniors today. Your class, class of 2020, is going to be a lot like class of 1988. I can tell it already, and other great classes have stayed connected with one another. So, so David, thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Bill, thank you, and I am quite honored. I did have the opportunity to see a portion of the slideshow. The one that was my favorite was the pie in the face in the dining hall. At some point, I'd like to get the backstory on that. The other thing before I share my comments is I want everyone here to know that Bill and I, there's no conspiracy theory here. The comments that Bill just mentioned, you'll see in parallel as I go through my remarks. I wasn't the person from 30 years ago because I graduated 32 years ago. So just know that this is something that is deeply felt within the Trinity-Pawling alumni community. So let's give this a go, and we'll see where it takes us. It goes like this. To the class of 2020. I remember my graduation day from Trinity-Pawling literally as if it were yesterday. Out on the quad, the sun was shining, my family was there. I had more hair, particularly in this region. My classmates, faculty, and administrators were all there who I'd spent the last 4 years of my life with. And a quick side note, I did work 2 of those summers with the Trinity-Pawling maintenance crew. So I've done the full cycle of duty at the school. Anyway, after my name was called to approach and receive my diploma, I wasn't thinking about the here and now. Rather, I was recounting the memories and friendships formed while at TP. Now, don't get me wrong. For a moment, I imagined a total fake out happening. Where you're expecting something, in this case, a diploma, and suddenly they strip it from your hands and remind you that Mr. Reed is still awaiting your final art project. Thankfully, that did not happen. Now, many TP graduations have taken place since that time, and I hope and imagine they were similar to the one that I had experienced. But you guys, the proud class of 2020, aren't going to experience this moment in quite the same way. In fact, it'll be very different, right? I guess the answer to that question, frankly, is solely dependent on what you view as an appropriate way to celebrate, how you individually and as a class decide what to make of this moment. A few days ago, I asked an administrator if the head prefect, Solomon Hess, might be willing to send me a question about really anything. Here's what I got back from Solomon. He asked, what was my reaction to hearing the news about your class? And what do I think, and what would I have done if I were in his shoes? Solomon, it's a really good question. And it's one that I'm not sure I know how best to answer. But I gave it a fair bit of thought, and here are a few things that I came up with. Upon hearing the news, it honestly made me sad. That build-up to this very special moment is now not to be for you guys. But I thought again back to my graduation and remembered what was most important. It was the relationships formed. No question about it. It wasn't about that specific day. Rather, it was the last 4 years, and I made sure that every day counted. I suspect each of you did the same, particularly after reviewing the list of distinguished colleges and universities each of you are committed to attending next year. And by the way, congratulations, guys. It's really impressive. But remember one thing. Your graduation day does not dictate who you are or what you will become. I would gladly trade my graduation day for the 40 years I had if that were a choice I had to make. Solomon then asked what I could have done. Whether that's in the context of being the head prefect or a member of the class of 2020, my answer would actually be the same. I would first thank my parents and any others who provided me with the opportunity to gain so much from a Trinity-Pawling education. Next, I would call, not text, every one of my classmates and thank them for being part of my journey, and to say, I look forward to seeing you again whenever the opportunity presents itself. And finally, I would make a list of my favorite and possibly my least favorite teachers and administrators to call, just a moment, to call and thank them. Each of them in their own way helped me in my journey. Now, I'd like to explore a couple of words that I've heard for many years at Trinity-Pawling. They are brotherhood and pride. And a quick shout out to Junior Prefect Ben Yoon, who offered up this topic. These words did not exist nor resonate with my class back in the day. And maybe they don't resonate with each of you. Perhaps some of you feel these words were encouraged or forced upon you. Again, I really don't know. That said, let me share a quick story that I hope demonstrates what it could mean for you. I graduated in 1988, which makes me almost 3 times your age. But do me a favor, don't do the math on that. It was never my strong suit. My class was and is diverse in many ways. And as a result, groups or cliques formed. Many were based on the specific sports that people played. Sometimes it was their preferred music. We had plenty of Deadheads, a lot of people like Bob Marley, all of it. We even had a room called the butt room, where students would congregate and smoke cigarettes together. It's hard to say what group I was part of, but safe to say it wasn't with the cool kids. When I graduated, I went to a small liberal arts college not far from TP, and I loved it. Following, I worked a number of years, spending the majority of my professional career in New York City, with regular work travel to different states and countries. Over that time, those groups or cliques earlier referenced no longer seemed to matter or exist. What mattered was that we shared that time together. And as we look back collectively as a group, I mean as a class, we knew that we had prevailed. Not all of it was rosy and no one was perfect, but nor is life. So when you find good people, nurture those relationships and hold on to them. Zoom meetings have taken the place of in-person visits these days. In the wake of COVID-19, my class hosts a meeting every 2 weeks on a Friday afternoon. It's amazing to hear the stories either recounted from our time at TP or getting a real-time update on life as it stands. At the end of each call, there's certainly a greater sense of community, love, and sincere care for one another. Our journey at TP began in 1984. And while it's likely hard for you to understand at this time, our journey as a class and our love, respect, and support for TP strengthens and will always continue to be part of our journey, as it will be part of yours. The last words shared on our class calls end with, "Later, brother." It probably took us 10+ years following TP to truly understand and appreciate the strength of these bonds, the loyalty to a fault, generosity and support whenever needed, and respect for one another. To me, that is brotherhood. And it was earned, not declared. And while I'm using the second word a bit out of context at TP, I'm filled with tremendous pride as a result. On a potentially more humorous note, Mr. Reed submitted a couple of questions for me to answer. I was not expecting that. He asked David, how many TP classmates do you connect with in each year? The answer, it's never enough. Life pulls you in many directions all the time. What I would admit to you is that TP is rarely out of my thoughts because it's the place where I did most of my growing up. The second question is that Ned offered was, what was the most embarrassing moment for me at TP? Thanks, Ned. Like I said, I did most of my growing up at TP, and so there are lots of examples to choose from. So here we go. one evening in Star 2 South, where Mr. Reed happened to be the dorm master, I was in the midst of a highly competitive game of poker with my classmates, with my buddies. I knew it was my day. I was being dealt the best of hands. And I noticed that when I had those hands, my competitors, my buddies, but my competitors would sort of fold. They would just fold their hand and we move on to the next game. And I couldn't quite figure it out. And so by the end of it, after all my money and pizza money was gone, they did share a secret with me that they had strategically placed a mirror behind me so that they could see my hands. That was particularly embarrassing for me. One other quick story is that for some reason I was given the nickname Tootie, and it stuck with me. In fact, when I returned to campus, faculty administrators still greet me by saying, "What's up, Tootie?" What's most important about this somewhat embarrassing nickname is that when I hear it called, no matter where I am, they're calling for me. I was at the U.S. Open tennis tournament one year, and from across a crowded space, I heard, "Hey, Tootie." And it was a member of the class of 1990, Tommy Seitz. Incidentally, his son Taylor is also a proud graduate of Trinity-Pawling. So in closing, I put together a Tootie's top 10 list for the class of 2020. So here we go. Number one, if I had a drum, I'd have somebody play it. Number one, having a Trinity-Pawling experience under your belt will differentiate you from the rest, and importantly, for your entire life. Number two, any TP graduate, regardless of the year he graduated, will pick up your phone call or email, have a thoughtful conversation, and feel compelled to help you. This type of loyalty does not exist at 99.9% of other schools. Each of you are just at the beginning of your journey in life. Your brotherhood expands well beyond your 2020 classmates. Embrace that opportunity. Number three, open up an investment account, of course, with your parents' permission. Learn how to be responsible with money. Time is on your side as a young adult, and that nest egg can grow to be quite significant over time. Number four, when you first step on to your college campus, whenever that day takes place, it will take you approximately 4 to 5 minutes to fully move in, unlike so many others who will be leaving their homes for the very first time. I submit to you from that moment forward, seize every ounce of time, opportunity, and experience during your college career. That is the place for your next stage of learning, and trust me, you will be better prepared for it when you get out into the real world. Number five, find your passion. Trinity-Pawling provided you with an incredible platform to learn, explore, invent, develop, prove in a safe environment so you could comfortably ask questions along the way. Continue that path. Try new subject matters spanning from business to arts to science to whatever. Those topics will test where your true passions may lie. And at the very least, it will make you far more interesting to be around. Number six, see the world. When there's an opportunity to travel anywhere, do it, and do it early in life, because larger responsibilities await you down the road that can and will limit your flexibility. Number seven, represent Trinity-Pawling with pride and support the school by staying involved. No matter the level or type of support that you provide, you will feel a far greater sense of return on that investment. And number eight, and this is a word on connectedness. COVID-19 is a challenging period for all of us, but likely more challenging for you because your journey is just beginning. I would highly encourage you, each of you, to write down the positives and negatives of this period, and then isolate the negatives. Focus and capitalize on the positives. Take the time to set goals and achieve them. Perhaps one of them is to spend more time outdoors, as an example. If that's the case, instead of going for a quick hike, take a week and hike the Appalachian Trail or Tuckerman's Ravine or something equivalent that might be nearby. Don't be the guy that says, I wish I had done that. Be the guy who said that he did it. Number 9, and this is a quote from someone you've heard of before. It's very pertinent. It goes, one thing I will leave you with from the words of Winston Churchill. Never, ever, 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 ever give up. To the class of 2020, I do wish you great success in your future endeavors. I encourage you as a class to remain tight and continue to depend upon one another, and know that your class will be celebrated for years to come because of your perseverance. And one final comment, number 10 of Tootie's top 10 list. Don't forget to thank your parents. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you, David. That was wonderful. You know, to the seniors, you know, I started my career here at Trinity-Pawling in the summer of 1988. So I missed Mr. Tyree. He had graduated the previous May, and I arrived here in July. So David, I didn't know your nickname was Tootie. So now I don't think I'll ever forget it. So thank
Lucky
you for
me.
that. I do remember the butt room, however, and seniors would find it just impossible to believe that there were students who were allowed to smoke cigarettes on campus. And the butt room was an awful place. I hung out there one weekend when I was on duty because that was figured, you know, I'd get to know that group of kids. But there was a list that Mr. Tyree would remember that would be posted where the group ratings are posted. That would be the names of the students who had parental permission to smoke cigarettes, and so you could smoke if you were in the butt room. And when I arrived in the fall of 1988, they were just beginning to phase it out. So within a couple of years, that had ended, thankfully. So fun for me to think about some of those memories. Just bear with me here. Thank you. I want to introduce our next speaker, somebody you know very well, and that is Mr. Gilman. Now, I remember Mr. Gilman also as a student, but he was a middle school student when I was here, and he was, I think, graduating 8th grade the year that I left in 2001. But as you well know, he is the senior form advisor. He spent 6 years at Trinity-Pawling, and he graduated in 2005, only to come back again in 2011 to begin his professional career, which began at Trinity-Pawling in the development office, what we now call the advancement office, before becoming a teacher in the lead program and an ice hockey and lacrosse coach. Mr. Gilman is passionate about teaching and coaching and shares his wisdom with you all today. So, Mr. Gilman.
Thank you, Bill. David, nice job, although you did break the 10-minute mark, which we said you weren't allowed to do. So, first off, congratulations, class of 2020. You made it. Almost there. When I'm asked to speak as a faculty speaker at an event like this, I'm always honored but find it very challenging. I'm honored to be a part of the closing days of your Trinity-Pawling experience, as I was able to be a part of the opening days as well. It is hard for me though, like you just heard from Mr. Tyree, it's hard to remove your alumni hat for a minute and speak to you from a faculty standpoint, but I will do my best. While you may not walk the same hall, while we may walk the same halls, share similar chapel services, early morning breakfasts, sit-down meals, and compete in the same arenas, every Trinity-Pawling graduating class is built differently. I graduated in 2005, like Headmaster just said. 15 or so years ago, I sat during my alumni induction, reminiscing about the senior prank that we pulled off a few days prior, preparing myself for the emotional roller coaster I was about to experience during our stepping up ceremony the next morning. And I look forward to our commencement ceremony that was just days away. Class of 2020, you are much stronger than I am, more secure than my Trinity-Pawling classmates of 2005, more resilient than the class of 2019, perhaps better built than the class of 2021. Class of 2020, you are unassailable. Each year I have the honor to work directly with the new senior class. I enjoy every opportunity. I enjoy the moments that I watch each student find success, whether it's in the classroom, on the athletic field, or it's hearing them crush a rendition of That Lonesome Road by James Taylor. Perhaps it's bringing joy and laughter to the entire community through our theater program. There is no doubt that this is my favorite part about being the senior class advisor. With success, though, comes failure. Throughout the year or the 6 or so months that we've been together, I've seen each of you fall and scrape your knees, experience moments of growth and learning, and ultimately find success. I would like to take a few minutes to share the more memorable moments for me during this shortened school year. Scully Hall is Trinity-Pawling's dining hall. Each day, our community gathers together for meals, events, and camaraderie. Scully Hall, probably known mostly for its most creative ways to present a chicken and rice meal. You may not be aware, though, that it is home of the greatest dessert in the Hudson Valley, the Scully Hall pound cake. Our 2019 and 20 school year was kicked off with the infamous pound cake debate starring Johnny Jung and Frank Jurasevic. We are still unaware of all the details. However, I would say most of us are looking forward to hearing the full pound cake debate at your class's 5th year reunion. I remember a beautiful Saturday afternoon spent at Karate Field watching a soccer game. I was sitting underneath the scoreboard with my family, and Trevor Cole, who is normally a defender, raced up the sideline closest to me and took the most incredible shot. And from my angle, it literally bent into the net. A soccer season filled with many tribulations, this is a beautiful moment that was celebrated by Trevor and his teammates. I did learn later that that was a mishit cross, and obviously I needed to check with Coach Clawher about what exactly that meant. But nonetheless, a spectacular moment for Trevor and his teammates. Sorry, Coach Loff. Seeing the heartache on the faces of Kyle Bisho, Jaden Clark, Dante Williams, and JJ Flacaveno after an incredible comeback by the football team fell short on a failed 2-point conversion in overtime that led to a 35-34 loss against Hotchkiss. Although it was later that day that I recognized the quality leader and human being of Kyle Bisho. Tough game, Bish. He said, "It's all good. We have plenty of games left and we'll come back stronger from this." Maybe it's watching Lucas Hughes create and own some of the best school spirit that I've ever seen. The infamous finger point will go down in history. Lucas would persuade and encourage students to rally for various sporting events and community functions, and attendance soared at each event. Maybe it was the way the community came together to support the hockey team and Coach Ferraris. As Stephen Willey, John Gillette, Taylor Ewing, and Christian Colantonio positively represented the school and the program and helped lead the hockey team to an 8-5 victory over Kent. Perhaps the biggest victory that night was that the way the community helped to raise $5,000 for cancer. Or was it the outpouring of students that attended the New England quarterfinal basketball game at Salisbury as you cheered Tim Moran, Chris Gleaton, and Truth Harris on to victory? You made it seem less like a road game and more like a game at Hubbard Court. How about Omar Sadani trying to sneak out of the theater only to be caught by himself as he knocked down one of the biggest spotlight machines that I've ever seen during the Sleepy Hollow performance? Or is it Omar referring to himself as OB, Dutchess County's finest freestyle rapper? Maybe it was the opportunity to celebrate with Kyle Hamill, Lucas Hughes, and David Bancroft as they helped lead the wrestling team to another Founders League championship. Or was it the chuckles at sit-down lunch table every day when you heard Mr. Collins say, after the meal, "Can I see Flacavento?" Maybe it was watching Richie Bolding crush a ludicrous verse of Justin Bieber's Baby during a lip sync battle. Or watching Solomon Hess, Ben Yoon, Trevor Cole, and Blake Shaw put on a spectacular performance of Urinetown, not knowing that'd be the last time that we saw them on stage together. Or maybe for me, most recently, it was getting to spend time with Tian Wei, as he is one of the few boys still stuck on campus. I enjoyed letting Tian Wei into my apartment and hanging with my family, and I enjoyed watching him be a leader to Francis, Jason, and Rain as they were all quarantined at Trinity-Pawling. Not because they had the corona, but because they couldn't fly home. See, my year, like many of you, was incomplete. My spring, like all of you, was filled with missed moments and opportunities. Personally, I missed Mr. Rui reminding us every day that he went to Yale. Oh wait, that still happens even remotely. New speech. I miss celebrating a Jake Giannone overtime save against Brunswick, or CK Giannicola fast break that would lead to a Kyle Playstead game-winning goal. I miss seeing Luke Schleiger hit a home run against Loomis, or a Robert Constantine grab at first base, or Jake Rapace robbing a home run at the wall. I miss watching Truth Harris, Taylor Ewing, Jaden Clark compete in a relay event. I definitely missed the opportunity to see Ben Yoon and Solomon Hess on stage for a final spring production. I missed high-fiving Max Levine after I heard he sank a putt to win New England's. I probably missed Henry Daniels dismantling serve as he crushed his Avon opponent with his wicked Darien serve. I definitely missed watching Mez live as he rocked Gardner Theater during his final performance at the rock concert, and listening to Sam Fetchner play a song that he wrote on the piano and stun us all. And just because I have control of the situation right now, I missed the faculty being crowned 2020 softball champions. I missed the opportunity to laugh and look on as the entire senior section shouts Selly after each underclassman award was given out. I miss joining with the entire school, faculty and students, as we line up on the quad to say goodbye to you all. Perhaps I miss most the chance to say goodbye to each and every one of you on your day of commencement. Your feelings of hurt, anger, resentment, sadness are all justified and not minimized. An important message from your head prefect, Solomon, during his last chapel talk. Solomon said, "COVID does not define our class." There is no doubt that these last 2.5 months have tested each and every one of you. You are far more resilient on May 22nd than you were on September 10th. It was that day, September 10th, that you all set out on a journey that you promised each other and me sitting in the chapel that we would complete together. A journey that would be filled with highs and lows, excitement and sadness, joy and pain, victory and losses, and growth and setbacks. Here we are, as you sit next to your parents listening to me speak through Zoom and awaiting your graduation through a live stream. Perhaps you view this as a setback, a loss, a low, a feeling, sadness, or pain. We understand. I heard a great quote from Ms. Sheryl Sandberg, who's the CEO of Facebook, during one of her interviews. She said, "Life is not a ladder. Those days are gone. We are now climbing jungle gyms." I am happy to report that all of you must have spent a lot of time at your town's playground because you have mastered the jungle gym of your spring semester senior year, the jungle gym that has led you to hope. You shaped your character and built your identity in ways that you may not be able to envision just yet. We, including the faculty, administrators, trustees, and your parents, are hopeful. We feel hopeful that you represent the class of 2020, and more importantly, leave school and approach the next chapter of your life as representatives of Trinity-Pawling. You see, hope is a feeling of expectation and a desire for a certain thing to happen. So Solomon, I agree, COVID did not define you, but it certainly has tested you. It was your final exam at Trinity-Pawling, or your failed assignment to turn into Ned Reed for your last artwork, as David said. But I am glad to say you passed. A, 1 for effort. Comment reads, class of 2020, you have figured out ways to stay connected, exhausted every avenue of social media to stay in touch. You are creating music, making podcasts, painting, learning to cook, and fostering your relationships with your siblings, and probably testing your parents' patience a little bit as well. The Trinity-Pawling community has benefited from your leadership, positivity, creativity, and innovation. I asked all of you to rise up as leaders in the beginning of the school year. Whether you had the title of prefect, proctor, dean's assistant, it did not matter. I challenged you to be a leader. Through your engagement, curiosity, wise words, playing of music, sharing of poems, and creating virtual monologue readings, you are responsible for shaping the Trinity-Pawling community more than you might imagine. Class of 2020, you left your mark. You left a giant dent on this community, a mark that we will not buff out and a dent that we will not repair. We are hopeful for the future as you leave Trinity-Pawling. Congratulations, class of 2020. You are built differently. You are stronger than I am, more secure than the class of 2005, more resilient than the class of 2019. Each one of you, do as much as you can to create, be innovative, and produce. Make the best of any situation you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. That was beautifully said. I love the images and the memories that that you brought back to my mind, particularly Omar knocking over the light. I don't know how I could have possibly forgotten that, but that's a joyful memory in my mind. So thank you for giving me that window. You know, you've heard seniors all, you know, a lot of words of connection, and you know, some of you are going to move on as class agents, and you'll be responsible for working to keep your class connected. And so I want to thank you for those who have volunteered for this role and responsibility. So it's my pleasure to announce that the class of 2020 class agents are Richard Bolding, Trevor Cole, Roger Ecker, Sam Fechner, Solomon Hess, Lucas Hughes, Tommy Selecki, and Linus Ramage. So thank you guys very much for stepping into this role. I want to take a moment now to thank the parents for your support of the school and for your partnership. You know, we can only do what we do as teachers, as educators, if we're working in partnership with you as parents. So I thank you for that, and I want to thank you for your contributions to the Capstone 20 Senior Class Gift. This year's gift of an illuminated lion and spirit banners will help bring true TP pride to the Smith Fieldhouse and will be the first designated parent gift in the building. So, Mr. Riley, maybe you could show an image of this. There we go. So that will hang in the main entranceway, and so we are grateful for your contributions to make this gift a reality, and it will be a daily reminder of the strength and power and pride of the class of 2020. We will hold a dedication for this special gift when we all return to campus for our in-person celebration of the class of 2020. But in the meantime, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our senior parent volunteers, especially Celia Eckert, Christine Giancola, and Kathleen Selecki, who were so instrumental in leading the Capstone 20 project. Thank you very much. And thank you again to all the families for your contributions to this gift and for honoring this special class. As I've said earlier, but for the parents who are watching, we will be having our commencement recognition video that will be posted at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And it's a sort of amalgamation of different things. Some aspects from graduation, some aspects from baccalaureate, some aspects from stepping up. It's not meant to be a facsimile of anything. It's meant to recognize that this class is coming to an end of one journey, but commencing another journey in their lives. And it's important, as you've read things that I've written, that we do mark these transitions in life with celebration and ceremony. And we're obviously not able to do that together. And we will at some point. And that's going to be an opportunity for all the parents, all the students to come back. And we will plan it in a way that makes that feasible. But we'll do that when we were able to do that. But tomorrow is our day to celebrate and mark this transition of the class of 2020 as they close one chapter of their lives and begin the next. And we've thrown a couple of lighthearted things into that may seem as inside jokes, but hopefully the seniors will get them. So I want to thank you for being with us today for this. I want to thank Mr. Tyree and Mr. Gilman for their thoughtful and wonderful remarks. Parents, want to thank you again for your support, but seniors, I particularly want to thank you for your leadership and for really teaching us and modeling for us of your adaptability, your creativity, your resilience, and your onwardness. Just created a word, but you have modeled onwardness. So well done. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Congratulations.